12:30 Thursday afternoon can mean one thing. Bob Holt, the one and only, joining us from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette here on Halftime. Bob, how you doing today? What's up?
Good.
Thought I heard him say good. I guess he's doing all right. Bob always is doing all right. I liked your article about Treylin Smith. I want to talk about the probable second-string running back for the Razorbacks behind Rakeem Boyd, although I know we expect to see both of them on the field at the same time on occasion. He's the transfer from Arizona State, sat last year, got rave reviews in practice, and I think he's expected to be a pretty heavy contributor behind Boyd. What do you know about Treylin Smith and where he could fit in?
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, Rakeem Boyd, I think if he was at Alabama or, Auburn or LSU, he'd probably be on the Heisman Trophy list. I really believe that. I think what he's done for, let's face it, some pretty bad Arkansas teams has been pretty remarkable, very impressive. So, but the SEC is a tough league, and you really need more than one running back. But, he's carried the ball hurt, with shoulder and different injuries, and you have to admire that about a guy. But obviously, if he's, hurting, it would be good to have, quality backup in there, and also maybe just to give him some break in some of these games. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a good role for Smith and the coaches. His old coaches raved about him. You got guys like Jeff Traylor, who's a UTSA now, and the new coaches, Sam and Kendall Brown's new offensive coordinator, have really raved about him. And he and Rakeem, I think, are pretty close. They're both from Houston, but of course that's not like, Fayetteville or something where you run into everybody at the Walmart probably. But so they've gotten a lot closer here. But yeah, I think it could be a really good player for him. He sounds really excited and anxious to play after redshirting, which is obviously understandable.
Let's talk about Boyd for a minute. We got a question from Justin in Van Buren, and you got to love Boyd's story. Coming from Independence Community College and rushing, having two outstanding seasons, hurt for a good chunk of that time in an offense that was stuck in the mud under Chad Morris, and now comes back for Sam Pittman's first year, hoping to maybe in some cases show off some other skills for the NFL scouts. He's got a really high ceiling. But Justin asks, who do you think is the better running back, Alex Collins or Rakeem Boyd? And I say, well, they're so different in their styles, but I think Collins is more of a workhorse than Boyd. I do wonder about Rakeem's ability to stay healthy for a full season.
Yeah, I guess a better question might be, how would Alex Collins have done in this offense the last 2 years? How would Rakeem Boyd have done playing with Frank Ragnow and Dan Skipper and Sebastian Tretola and some of those other really good linemen blocking for him? I do think Arkansas's line is going to be better. I mean, the coaches are very high on Myron Cunningham. It looks like, Ricky Stromberg's fitting in at center. But I think they're different kind of backs. I do think Collins, I certainly do not question Rakeem Boyd's toughness, because there were times he talked to us after a game and you could tell he was probably in pain. So one, you appreciate the fact that he came and talked to us, because we probably just added to his pain. But seriously, I mean, he was playing with banged up shoulders and different things. So, I mean, I think Rakeem Boyd's incredibly tough. I think Alex Collins was too. It's kind of apples and oranges, because let's face it, Alex played with, better teams. We don't know what this season holds, but Alex, he did prove to be more durable, I think. But yeah, they're a little bit different backs, but they're both really, really good. Arkansas, they were looking to have Collins, or they're looking to have Boyd.
Speaking of Bob Holt here on Halftime, Bob, one thing that Sam Pittman mentioned last night during his Sam Pittman Live on radio last night, he loves this secondary group, the talent that they have, and really kind of the sense of urgency and just the sense to get better from what Barry Odom and his defensive staff have really put an emphasis on for that secondary group. In your mind, is this group, is this secondary group the best part of the defense, or are you looking at a different position group defensively as the best part of this Razorback defense?
Well, they could be. I mean, they lost a really good player in Cameron Curl, who made the NFL franchise in Washington, I guess is what they're known now. But, yeah, you got to like the experience of those guys in the secondary. I mean, Monteric Brown. That was the new one. I heard Sam call him Mo Brown. I've heard him called Busta because, but Buster Brown and all that. I've not heard him called Mo. But when he first said that, I thought, who's this Mo Brown guy? And then it hit me, always thought about Monteric. But, McClellan's an experienced guy. Obviously, Jerry Jacobs coming over from Arkansas State's an experienced guy. And, Joe Fouche's played back there. Catalan, who's a really highly touted recruit. He hadn't got on the field much, but they're high on him. And I know they're double, triple training guys, maybe in some cases at different spots, whether it's corner and nickel, even some safety. Safety's working some nickel, maybe some corner. I think that's kind of twofold. One, sounds like they want to be very multiple in Barry Odom's system. And two, with the coronavirus, you don't know how that's going to impact your team week to week. And so you better have some guys, and this is, I think, especially applies to the offensive line. I think Sam said they had 6 guys working center, but that's really smart because if you don't have a guy who can snap the ball, you're in a world of hurt. So, but I think there's some good talent in the secondary, and there's some good depth, and I think they got some pretty good coaching back there too.
Got the final scrimmage coming up, and we've talked a lot about the lack of someone coming up for the number 1 spot at tight end. We've seen the deficiencies of depth at linebacker. So when you look at this upcoming scrimmage, you've seen different people rotate in and out for the tight end spot. You've got lots of youth and experience. But when you look at this scrimmage coming up, of the tight ends or linebackers, which spot do you think really needs to be solidified at the forefront of the discussion by the end of this scrimmage this coming week?
Well, I'm not sure if they're going to do a wholesale scrimmage, but I know they're going to have a mock game definitely before they play Georgia. But, that's a good question because those are two. I would say they have more options at linebacker. They have more experience there. So I would say finding, and really Sam's talked about needing at least 2 tight ends. So we know Hudson Henry, he's obviously got the bloodlines, to be a really good tight end. We know he was a really great high school tight end. Didn't get to play a lot last year. Was hurt some. But they preserved his red shirt, so that was good. But I would say probably finding a couple of tight ends they feel good about would be a higher priority right now, just because I think there's more experience and maybe a little better numbers there at linebacker.
I know you're writing a series of stories now, Bob, about the top 10 Razorback NBA players. It's always fun to go back and look at guys that you've covered, I think, just about every one of these players that you'll be writing about, if not maybe 2 or 3 of them. And figuring out how you rank them. It's got to be awfully difficult to rank when it comes right down to it. But I'm enjoying this piece. I guess you can't give us a preview as to who you're writing next because it's up there as the rankings, right?
Yeah, actually, Tom Murphy has got the next one. I won't tell you who that is, but I'll let the cat out of the bag. Sidney Moncrief and Joe Johnson are on the list. How about that?
Well, not a big surprise, yeah.
Spoiler.
Isn't that a huge surprise? Yeah.
But don't tell anybody. Let's just keep it between us.
Yeah, we'll make sure we don't mention anything about that. Speaking of basketball, did you see this idea about the 300-team NCAA tournament? Got shot down pretty quickly. I don't even know how that could work. And honestly, it doesn't make any sense.
Coaches were thinking there. Just including every team would be a little nutty, especially when, I think things are still not going to be back to normal by this spring, unfortunately. So I think, I'm not saying you should reduce teams, but I certainly don't think you want to add, 250 teams to the mix or whatever if you try to create these bubbles, especially. You have to have some pretty darn big bubbles for 350 teams or 352 or whatever it is. So, I'm not sure what the ACC, obviously that's the basketball league. I'm not sure what was happening with those guys. Certainly the ACC gets a lot of teams in, so it's not like – but I think, you would take away the excitement of the conference tournament, certainly for some of the smaller conferences where, rightly or wrongly, they're the only team that's going to get in from their league is that tournament champion. And, even if you went undefeated, during the regular season of your conference in some of those leagues, if you don't win the tournament, you're not getting to the big dance. So I think that, I think putting every team in, that would really be March Madness.
Yeah, that would be. I think I might actually call it March idiocy instead of madness because it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Stupidity, something like that. Yeah.
I know. Next week we're supposed to find out when the NCAA is going to target the beginning of the college basketball season, And I think if you read the tea leaves from this statement from the ACC coaches, I think that they believe that they'll be playing a conference-only schedule, or that they won't be able to schedule a lot of the, lower major programs that they've been able to schedule for a lot of time. That's what I'm gleaning. I don't know. That's what we're seeing from college football right now, with the exception of a couple of non-conference games here or there. I'm not asking you to make it a prediction, but, football season isn't going to look like anything that we recognize. I think basketball season might look even less like anything we recognize.
Well, I think one thing with sports, whatever, it might be, whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, I think teams want to play the Power 5 teams. Well, everyone wants to be healthy, obviously, and stay safe. But, the Power 5 schools, they have the financial resources to do extensive testing and tracing and things like that. A lot of the schools, it's no offense to them, they just don't have the same financial resources as, say, SEC or Big 12 or Big 10 teams or whatever do. So I think those teams, like if you're in the SEC, you want to play other teams that also have done extensive testing. And so that's why I think you might be looking at, conference only, or maybe just Power 5 versus Power 5, or, maybe Gonzaga or somebody can test extensively. No offense to other people in other leagues, but or maybe I think if you bring in a smaller school, maybe you have to pay, like if Arkansas were to play whoever mid-major, they might have to pay to have that team tested. And that might be worth it to them, for an extra game or a TV game, or depending on if they can sell tickets, or, however many tickets they might be able to sell for it. But, I think it's obviously telling that, Arkansas, for instance, has not released its schedule, because normally that would have been done, weeks ago probably, or a few weeks ago. And the SEC had put out their schedule. So I think that tells you right there that, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going on. And, we're going to have to kind of wait and see how that all unfolds, just like we did with football,
Just like we'll probably have to do with baseball as well. That's the rhythm of life now. It's just how it is. Bob, appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll leave it there. Talk next week.
Hey, you guys take care.
Absolutely. The one and only Bob Holt. Did you get some chicken wings in you today yet, SmackDown? I know you usually like to go to B-Dubs at least twice per week.
I've limited it to once a week just because it gets on the pocketbook sometimes, and I'm a little cheap right now. But
if you went today, it would be a good day to go.
No, it ain't if. It's when.
When
I'm going today. And you can head to Buffalo Wild Wings. Guys, they've got 4 new flavors on the B-Dubs menu. They've got pizza sauce. They've added lemon pepper, orange sauce, and they've replaced the blazing sauce with the sauce called Carolina Reaper.
See, that's the sort of stuff I think I was supposed to try after losing the college football picks last season.
Maybe us three need to make a little field trip to Buffalo Wild Wings sometime and get Phil to do the Reaper sauce. You can head to B-Dubs right now, get you loaded up on Boneless Thursday. They are at Little Rock, Fort Smith, Sherwood, Jonesboro, and Conway, and that's only at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Dumbass of the Week is next. This should be fun.